Hello, everybody. It's 7:15 in Ireland, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for having us on your screen, on your laptop or iPad or whatever device you're going to use. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So, and today we do have a special guest, Charles Kempf. He is one of the workers from the French Spiritism movement, or Irish French Spiritist Federation.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's good to know what's going on in France. And today's topic, Charlie is going to talk us about Spiritism and religion. So if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, please use our comment box and put your question there. Okay. So also I want to open the bridge with the United States. So welcome our dear friends in America. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you, Kardec Radio, for the opportunity. And I'd like to start this with initial prayer. So if you want, if you can, I would invite you to close your eyes and open up your heart in order to make connections with your benefactors, with your spiritual protective spirits, with our mentors, with Jesus, asking them to give Charles all the enlightenment he needs in order to give us a good information, a good knowledge, that for sure this is going to help us in the near future or today. Thank you for the French Spiritist movement and Irish Spiritist movement. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Amen. Okay, Charles, as I said, I'm putting up here your presentation. I'll stay in the background, Rodrigo and Nate as well. When you finish, Rodrigo and Nate come back and they're gonna talk to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Steven. Thanks a lot, Nady. Thanks a lot, Rodrigo, for this opportunity. Thanks also to all the person who can listen to this small lecture, and I will leave space for questions and answers also. You can also put questions in the chats of the media. And very happy to have also this broadcast over Kardec Radio from our dear Vanessa, which we know since some decades already, and which is doing a very, very good work also in disseminating Spiritism in the United States, but also in all the English-speaking countries of the world. So the subject of today is answering basically to a question: is Spiritism a religion? Because this is not an easy question. As you will see, the answer is not yes or no. It's not an easy and direct answer, but it gives the opportunity to think about it and to see really what are the characteristics of Spiritism which are close to the religion, and what are the other ones which are also disrupting from the religion. And I will try to express this in some of the slides that I've prepared for you. I want also to apologize for my English, because I'm French, born in France, so I speak a little bit English, but my English is not so good, but hopefully you will be able to understand my so-called not very good English. Okay, good. So first slide I like always to show, and here you see I give already some provocating a little bit about religious thoughts, showing an image of Jesus. But this image is very special because Jesus, of course, there is a lot of has been spoken and written about him. But one thing is sure, he gave a really wonderful example and also very powerful example. And the one I show here in Matthew 20:26 is when he was washing the feet of his apostles a couple of days before he died. And the lesson he left us in the Gospels are, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And this is a really outstanding teaching because you see, it was 2000 years ago, and only now, slowly but surely, it starts to be understood a little bit everywhere. Not even in the religious movements, the traditional religions. We not always have seen the leaders behaving like this. Means the more you grow in the hierarchy, in the management, the more you have the duty to serve, and the less you have the right to impose, to dictate, or to do something like this, as we had the habit during centuries. And today this is changing because you see, even in the books about management, I got access. You can access easily, and also through some some trainings in the company I was working, which is of course a private company, so looking for doing business and so on. But more and more, these values are recognized. You see, today we have a clear difference between a boss, which is the one who is out of his team and dictates the thing, and the leader, which is the one who is together with the team, motivating all the staff and working together with them to get the objective. And you see the book in orange, the title is Serve to be Great. So we are very close to the message I just showed before. And also there are some, the last Pope, which is Francisco, he is really, how to say, a little bit different from the others. Why? Because he is leading, as you can see on this book, with humility. And he is giving also a very good example on this new concept of the hierarchy, which shall be less and less vertical and more horizontal, which means the together with the teams, and this is which is leading to better results. And in the Spiritist movement, we also have to slowly but surely come to this. It is also not yet the case. You have a lot of people with high position in the Spiritism and which are, how to say, fighting to keep some privilege and so on. But in particular, in the Spiritist movement, we shall really follow the lesson that Jesus left us 2000 years ago. So now coming about this question of religion. So religion, you see some countries like in Brazil, it's clearly everybody, when you ask to everyone what is Spiritism, they will tell you it's a science, a philosophy, and a religion. So for Brazil, it seems absolutely normal to be a religion. When you tell the same in France, you tell it's a religion, in a room where you have 100 people, you may have 50 people who standing up and going out of the room because they will not accept this qualificative of religion for the Spiritism. And this is exactly what we have to take into account. The richness and the beauty and the strength of our world is exactly this diversity. You have a way of thinking in Latin America, in Brazil. You have another way of thinking in Europe, even different between France and Ireland and UK. Albeit with Ireland, we have a lot of these Celtic roots, so a lot of common points in our culture. And then when you go to the east, to Oriental countries like China or India or whatever, then you have again completely different cultures and different way to see the things. And I from time to time show this picture, which are really talking a lot. It's a Chinese artist which was living more than 15 years in Germany, and she made some little graphics like this to illustrate the difference between the German culture in blue and the Chinese culture in red. And this slide is illustrating how a German and a Chinese is making his mind, is building his mind. And you see that it's completely different. The German is really straightforward, and the Chinese, he needs to see a lot of things around before he really gets to something. And this is also something which is absolutely fundamental. I mean, in the Spiritist spreading around the world, we need to be universal. So we need to take into consideration all this diversity and all these differences. It does never mean that one is more is better than the other. It's just different. And the fact not to perceive these differences is leading to a lot of misunderstanding. A quick word about Hippolyte Léon Denis Rivail, which is Allan Kardec. I think most of you know him already. He is born in France, in Lyon, October 3rd, 1804. He studied in Pestalozzi's Institute in Switzerland, so that was one of the most famous schools at that time, begins of the 19th century, and where there were children, students from always around Europe, so from France, but also Switzerland, but Russia, UK, Germany, and so on. So you see already where I want to come with my previous slide. It gave him a huge cultural awareness because he was speaking several languages. He was faced with several different traditional religions with his colleagues from the school. And this gave him a huge cultural awareness, which helped him later on. After his studies, he was teacher in Paris, applying Pestalozzi's pedagogy. And he came into contact with Spiritism in around 1855, when he has seen the moving table phenomenon, and with his sense of observation, he saw immediately that there was no trick, that the phenomenon was authentic, and that there may be something. I mean, it was an intelligent effect which should have an intelligent cause. And then from that time, he started dedicating his life of observing, analyzing, and also writing books about what he found out. And here you see the 5 main books he wrote with 1857, so 2 years later only, the first Spirits book, 1861, the Mediums book, 1864, the Gospel according to Spiritism, 1865, Heaven and Hell, and 1868, the Genesis. So these are the 5 main books he wrote in, you see, a little bit more than 10 years, where you can get all the detailed information about what are Spiritist teachings. Okay. Continuing, let's come now to the point. Religion. So religion is a word which, as I suggested to you already, has several meanings depending on where you are and to whom do you talk. And the spirits, this is not only the problem with the word religion, it's a problem with a lot of other words. And the spirits in the Spirits book, question 28, they answered to Kardec, look, the words, we don't care about the words. Please select the one where you understand yourself, one another. And so they do not put a lot of importance on the words and on the form. They just let it up to us to select the word from which the meaning is very clear and which everyone understands in the same way, as far as possible at least. So this is also something particular from Spiritism. So it's not a question of letter, of form. It's a question of content, of teaching. And the form, this can be adapted in order in a way that it gets better to understand for the people we want to teach it to. And then continuing about religion. So what does religion mean? So I went, of course, like a lot today people are doing, to Wikipedia. And I went to the Wikipedia in English. And this is what I found in the Wikipedia English. So you can see it's a social, cultural system of designated behaviors and practices, morals, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, ethics, or organizations that relates humanity to supernatural, transcendental, or spiritual elements. So you see, it's a little bit complicated. And then it gets even more complicated because the next sentence I underlined, you see, they say, however, there is no scholarly consensus over what precisely constitutes a religion. Scholars have failed to agree on a definition of religions. So what does this mean? The word has not a clear definition. It means something for some people. It means something different from some others. If you go now to the Wikipedia in French, it's exactly the same, religion. It's saying, for some people, it's looking for the causes of the thing and divinity and whatsoever, so going to philosophy. For some others, it's a synonym of superstition. So you see, starting from here, you can already ask, is Spiritism a superstition? Clear it's not. So we cannot use this word religion to qualify Spiritism. The word is, how to say, has no clear meaning, and whoever will understand it in a different way. So it's not a good strategy to use this qualificative for trying to explain what Spiritism is. Okay? Continuing. Different religions may or may not contain various elements ranging from the divine, sacred things, faith, a supernatural being or supernatural beings, or some sort of ultimacy of transcendence that will provide norms and power for the rest of life. So here I underline the word supernatural. So for Spiritism, clearly, supernatural is something that does not exist, because it would imply that it could exist something beyond or above nature. And Spiritism is teaching this does not exist. What is wrongly called supernatural is something which is natural, but that science did not yet discover or did not yet explain. So supernatural is also not a right qualificative for Spiritism. Okay. So continuing, religious practices may include rituals, sermons, commemoration of or veneration of deities and saints, sacrifices, festivals, feasts, trances, initiation, funerary services, matrimonial services, meditation, prayer, music, dance, etc. So you see, does Spiritism have rituals? Not at all. Does Spiritism have sermons? Also not. Does Spiritism is it an initiatic teaching reserved only from some people who are allowed to study and to understand, and excluding from others? No, it's not. Everything is written in the 5 books I have shown you, and these 5 books are available everywhere to everyone. Okay? So Spiritism has nothing about initiations. Funerary services, Spiritism is also not doing this type of different rituals and so on. Then, of course, you can find meditation, you find prayer in Spiritism, music, art. Some of these things you can find in Spiritism, but there are some fundamental things that you cannot find at all in Spiritism. So again, all this is leading to the word religion is not a good word to qualify Spiritism. Continuing. That was already the case 160 years ago at the time of Kardec, or better, 150 years ago. And Allan Kardec, he gave a little conference in 1st of November 1868 in the Parisian Society of Spiritual Studies. And his speech was about the question, is Spiritism a religion? And he was at that time, as you will see, the problem was exactly the same as it is today. Sorry, this slide is in double, or no, I went to the wrong way. Okay. So Kardec is saying, when you look really what is the true sense of religion, but the true sense of the word religion is something that, let's say, 10 or 20% of the people around the world understand it in this way, and 80% understands it in a different way, you know. So the true sense is really not the common sense. So A religion, in its broad and true meaning, is a bond that links men in a community of feelings, principles, and beliefs. So you see, when you look to this sentence, to this definition, of course, this is also a good qualificative for Spiritism. The problem is also, you can see religious isolation, like social isolation, leads to selfishness. This is a big problem we can see today. And the traditional religions, with all the inconvenience they are bringing added value to a lot of people. So we also don't want to throw a stone against anyone here, because these traditional religions are still needed today and helping a lot of people to avoid this, how to say, selfishness and isolation as we can see it today, and which is, by the way, encouraged by materialism, by the materialist view of the life, which leads us, we have only one life, so let's really take advantage of it the more we can, even if we have to jeopardize other people, because we have only one life. So you see, the religion at least is bringing these spiritual values to a lot of people and helping the world to progress. Continuing, the bond established by a religion, whatever its object, is therefore an essentially moral bond which connects the hearts, which identifies thoughts, aspirations. So this is what it should be, okay? What the religion should do. But when you look to a lot of religions, it's not really what we see. It's a ritual, it's external practices, and so on. The people are going to the church to show themselves that they are going, like, how to say, a desfile or whatever, to show themselves socially. But they are not always bound by moral bonds, or they not always have the hearts connected. So this is what it should be. And Spiritism has the same goal, to connect the people and to really help one another for the progress of humanity. And Kardec asked then, if so, it will be said, Spiritism is a religion? Well, yes, no doubt, gentlemen. In this philosophical sense, in this deep sense, as just shown in the previous slide, Spiritism is a religion, and we pride ourselves on it, because it is the doctrine which forms the bonds of fraternity and communion of thoughts, not on a simple convention, but on more solid basis, which are the laws of nature. And you know that Spiritism is basing the notion of good and evil on harmony or disharmony of nature. So this is why also Spiritism does not accept supernatural things, because everything is natural. The law of nature are perfect. They don't need to have exceptions. God also doesn't need to make exceptions to them. So and the laws of nature is really the reference for the good and evil and for the moral. Okay. And then Kardec is continuing, why then have we declared that Spiritism is not a religion? For the reason that there is only one word to express two different ideas, and that in general opinion, the word religion is inseparable from that of worship, that it awakens exclusively an idea of form, and that Spiritism has none. So you see, is Spiritism a religion? The answer is already yes and no. Okay, so if you don't explain the details, if you just tell Spiritism is a religion, you have people who understand, yes, they will like it. People who understand it as how to say, worship and the idea of form exclusively, they will hate it. So it's really not a good way to proceed. Okay. Spiritism, having none of the characteristic of a religion in the usual sense of the word, could not nor ought to adorn itself with a title on whose value one would have inevitably misunderstood. This is why it is simply said philosophical and moral doctrine. You see, so in Brazil, again, the people are saying Spiritism is a religion. But when you come to Europe, if you tell this, again, more than half of the people, of the Europeans, will not like it. They will just, okay, it's one more. We know what is religions already since centuries. Religions have brought us so many problems, as I can illustrate here. Wars, and in Ireland, Northern Ireland, it was not so long ago. It's just when I was young, it was still a very heavy war with a lot of people killed in the name of the religion. You have the exclusivism. People are saying, this is my religion. What is your religion? This is my religion. And then when you have a marriage between someone of one religion and someone from another religion, it gives a lot of problems. And often it breaks even the marriage. You had the Crusades, the people going with a cross and with the gospel, and of course with the guns, to we will evangelize the world. It's only Jesus will save it, and so on. And you imagine when they arrived in people where the population is Muslim or Hindu or whatever. It doesn't work like this. It doesn't. These crusades have made hundreds, thousands of dead people and given a bad image of the religion. They have burned Giordano Bruno. They have burned Joan of Arc, no? on a fire in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, in the name of religion. Religion is also often presented as a tool to manipulate the masses. Karl Marx wrote it's opium of the people. There is also some commercial practices in the religions that are totally anti-ethical. And this led in Europe to revolutions and big fights to get rid of these abuses. The religious influence in the schools, where the young people are formatted to be, heaven, hell, and be kind, do what we ask you, and so on. So this teaching, which was somehow against freedom, and in France, 1789 was the French Revolution. This happened in several other countries to get rid of these things, of all these abuses of the religion. And so you imagine today you come and say Spiritism is a religion, it will awaken all these things in a lot of minds, and you will be immediately rejected. You will lose opportunity to bring this new teaching from Spiritism, which is absolutely disrupting from the traditional religious principles, as I will show you in the next slide now. And it's really a pity because it's a big loss of opportunity. Spiritism does not seek to distract anyone from their religious convictions. It is not addressed to those who have a faith and from whom this faith is sufficient. For whom this faith is sufficient. But for those who, not being satisfied with what they have been given, are looking for something better. You see here again, coming from Allan Kardec, Spiritism is not about hunting in the evangelist or in the Catholic Church or whatever. Spiritism is really presenting and bringing something else. And as per the law of freedom, each spiritist is absolutely free to follow and practice any religion he likes. So Spiritism can talk to Christians, to Buddhists, to Islamists, to Jewish, to whatever religion. Spiritism is something which is more universal, which is beyond or above the religions. It does not limit itself to one particular religion, and it shall not limit. Otherwise, you lose immediately this universality of the teaching Kardec left us. And what is also interesting here is the target audience for Spiritism, as explained by Kardec in the previous sentence, is then rather made up of those who are not satisfied with religion, and therefore who have rather a negative perception of this world. So presenting Spiritism as a religion is therefore not a good approach. It's even a wrong strategy. It generates arguments or even repulsion from what should exactly be the target audience, you see. So it's really a mistake spreading Spiritism like, okay, Spiritism is a religion, it's a revival of the gospel, only Jesus can save the world. All these things have no place in Spiritism. But of course, the moral laws, the teachings of Jesus, as I showed in my second slide, as you remember, this everyone will accept. Do unto the other what you would like the other to do unto you. This the people will accept. The people who are not accepting religion, who sometimes are not even accepting Jesus, because Jesus has been presented to them with the Trinity as the same as God and Spiritus Sanctus, in the name of which all these abuses have been committed, they may have a problem with the personality, with the image of Jesus, which has been completely jeopardized by all these abuses and practice from those who are just exactly the representatives of the religions. But this does not mean that these people do not have morality, that these people are not good people, that they are not doing charity, that they are not helping the others, that they are not educating children, that they are not working for peace. They adhere to all these universal values. And this is what we shall focus on rather than on a particular religion or a particular leader of a religion. Because when you enter in an area of the world where this religion or this leader is unknown or even sometimes rejected, the doors will close immediately and you lose opportunity. Okay. Spiritism is a moral doctrine which strengthens religious sentiments in general and applies to all religions, as I told. It is of all and of no particular. Therefore, it tells no one to change. It leaves everyone free to worship God in his own way and to observe the practices which his conscience dictates. You see, the basic law of Spiritism is a law of freedom, even in this religious aspect. So I had, how to say, extraordinary lucky to to participate to a big summit. It was the Millennium World Peace Summit in UN, as you can see, New York. It was in the year 2000. And I was there together with some other spiritists. You can see on the pictures, only two are still alive, myself and Divaldo Pereira Franco. And all the others, Nestor Mazzotti, Altivo Ferreira, and Joanir Borges de Souza, they passed away already and follow us from the spiritual world. And you see this auditorium of the UN was completely full of religious leaders from more than 300 different religious movements in the world. And what was the aim? What was the result of this summit? There was, how to say, I forgot now the name in English of it. A commitment. A commitment has been written with 10 to 15 statements about protect the world, stop violence, educate children, and so on. So with these root values, and this commitment has been signed by 300 out of the 300, only two did not sign, and that was for political reasons, not for ethical reasons. But all the others, they signed it. So this means that this universal moral is existing and recognized already. Léon Denis, in his book After the Dead, he in the first section, he went to the root of several religions around the world and showed that when you go really to the fundamental teachings, when you remove all the scrap which has been added to it by all these human representatives of these religions, you really find that they are extremely consistent one with the other. And the moral coming from the teaching of the spirits is, of course, also exactly the same. And this is why Kardec used one example, the Gospel according to Spiritism, where he was showing, going to the root of the teachings, removing all these false interpretations which came across the centuries, to show what was really the real meaning of these moral laws that have been taught, in this case by Jesus, but which are the same for all the religions. And this has been signed in year 2000. Unfortunately, it did not go a lot. We were thinking, no, we will have regular meetings in the same way and so on. But very soon it has been, how to say, captured by one particular religion. And then it got colored and it lost the momentum, the initial momentum, which was exactly neutral without a particular color, as Spiritism is today. Okay. So continuing, again, Kardec, what then is the link which must exist between the Spiritists? They are united to each other by no material contract, no binding practice. So there is no rituals, nothing as you have seen. Nobody has signed anything. What is the feeling in which all thoughts must be confounded? It is a moral, spiritual, and humanitarian feeling. Charity for all, in other words, love of neighbor, which includes the living and the dead, since we know that the dead are still part of humanity. This, let me just, sorry for this. Let me close the software. Voila, so it will not ring again. Sorry for that. Okay, so as you can see, we really have to focus on the teachings, charity, moral, and so on, and not to a particular color of a religion. Continuing, charity is the soul of Spiritism. It summarizes all the duties that man towards himself and his fellow man. This is why one can say that there is no true Spiritist without charity. All this is coming from Kardec, from this speech. He made my work easy because he did it 152 years ago, and I'm just now taking only the main ideas from him in order to present them to you today. What is the true meaning of the word charity? Because a lot of people saying, okay, charity, what is it? Is it just to throw some coins to the poor people in the street? No, as you can see, the question 886 of the Spirit's book, charity is benevolence for everyone, indulgence for the imperfections of others, and forgiveness of injuries. You see, it's just more than only the material charity. Here we have the moral charity. It's really the base of having this fraternity growing across the world, because benevolence for everyone is the basic teachings, and do unto other what you would like the other to do to you. Indulgence for the imperfections of other. Only God is perfect. We are all imperfect. So how can we live and work and do good things together if we have no indulgence over our own imperfections and of the one of the others? And forgiveness of injuries is without willing. Sometimes we are harming some other people, and if you don't forgive, if you say, okay, now I finish everything, I don't want to hear more anything just because you were sometimes hurted by someone, it's also paralyzing you, and you are the first one jeopardized from this lack of forgiveness. So here you can see the depths of the Spiritist teachings. With brotherhood, the daughter of charity, men will live in peace and will spare themselves the innumerable evils that arise from discord, the daughter of pride, selfishness, ambitions, jealousy, and of all the imperfections of humanity. You see, this selfishness and pride, this is at the root of all the bad things which are happening in the world. You have people hungry, you see, you have wars, one willing the things of the others and invade or dominate or whatever. If we get rid of this selfishness and pride and replace it by a little bit humility, as I talked at the beginning, and charity, then most of the problem of the world will disappear. All this injustice, this unequal distribution of the capital and so on, all this will disappear, and anyone will have the minimum to live correctly, will have access to education, to whatever is necessary for his own evolution. So another characteristic of Spiritism is the reasoned faith. Kardec wrote, unshakable faith is only that which can meet reason face to face in every human epoch. As I told, these moral laws which are taught by Spiritism are explained. It's not just something which is just written down and that you have to take again with a letter and follow strictly. It's something that you have to, it is talking to your reason. You have to analyze it yourself, make your mind, and then once you have understood, then the faith is growing. It's not the blind faith anymore. It's the so-called reasoned faith. And Spiritism does not say believe first and you may understand later if you can. It rather says understand first and you may believe later if you want so. So you see, the free will is also something fundamental. Even if you have understood, you are still free not to believe, you see. And it's not asking us to believe without understanding. It's asking us to, here are the teaching. I'm today explaining you the teachings. And then you are free, take them, don't take them, come with questions, take time to think about it, whatever. And then, if you want, you can believe in it. It's not something which is imposed, it's just a teaching. It's a huge difference also between Spiritism and religion. In religion, generally, you have a revelation, some book which is written, whether it's a Gospel, Veda, Old Testament, and so on, that you have then to, it's the word of God, so you cannot discuss anything and so on. And this is generally forgetting that it was old languages, it has been misunderstood, translated, changed, and so on. So all these historical, the meaning of the words which are changed, we are talking about religion today, all this has to be taken into account. If you stay to the letter, you don't progress. Here you see the approach of Spiritism is completely different. The basis are the laws of nature, and not something which is written in the Spirit's book or whatever. And it has to make sense to you. Continuing. This is another characteristic where Spiritism is disrupting. A lot of people are looking now for disruption, which will change the world and so on. And this is really a disruption that Kardec has brought from heteronomy to autonomy. So autonomy, I think most of you know what it is, autonomous. And heteronomy is a word which has the opposite meaning of autonomy. And the traditional religious teachings are following a heteronomical approach. And Spiritism is fundamentally having an autonomous approach. To explain you better, the autonomous approach, you have understood. There are teachings, you take them. If you want, you always stay free and whatever. So if you do the charity, this benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness, you do it because you want. You don't do it because someone is imposing this to you or someone is threatening you. Be careful, if you don't do this, you will go to hell, or the bad spirits will jeopardize you, or you will go to umbral. These are the spiritist version of the heteronomy, you see. And this is something which is completely contrary of what Kardec has taught, as I showed you in the previous slide. So this heteronomy, which was traditional from these traditional religions during centuries, where the people in Europe have fought revolutions to get rid of this influence, imposing things, teaching, manipulating children to make them believe and having them afraid about hell and the evil and so on. This time has slowly but surely to stop, because most people, they want to understand, they want to be autonomous, they want to do the thing as per their free will, and not because they are imposed or because they want to get something back from it. The charity is totally with total disinterestedness. If you do the good, the charity, only because you want to be at the right side or whatever from God, or because you want to go to No Solar directly before going to the umbral, it's wrong. The charity is really totally disinterested. You do it because you understood that this is what will make you progress and evolve and become better much quicker. This is what will lead you to your own happiness quicker, and nothing else. So this is also a fundamental concept. There is some heteronomy which is introduced in some countries, and even in Europe in some groups from Spiritism, and there are still a lot of people which are needing this. People who do not want or who cannot make their own mind, and who need someone to tell them what they have to believe or not, what they have to do or not. Generally, they are looking for someone trustable to do this, but you know very well that today there is a danger. Trustable people are getting seldom from time to time, and you have a lot of abuses in this, with all these sectarian movements, which are at the end seeking your fragility to again manipulate you. And this is also something which is totally condemned by Spiritism through this autonomous approach. So slowly but surely, and in the good world, in this high evoluted world, the good spirits, they are totally autonomous. They do the good. They are here coming to help us because they want, not because they are obliged to or because they want to please God. Okay, so good will win out. This is sure. We have to stay, and the Spiritists are always fundamentally optimistic, even in the COVID period. COVID was an outstanding opportunity to think about, to reflect about these things, to change and to do the things better, to do the lectures that we are doing now, where we are reaching much more people than trying to gather a lot of people inside the room. So all this is, you see, thanks to the COVID, the world and a lot of people will progress. Not all. Huh? A lot of people are still behaving after the COVID like before, but at least some of them have changed. And so if 2% of the people have changed, let's say so, in 50 COVIDs, you may change the majority of the humanity. And this is showing how these global trials are helping the humanity to progress. Of course, a lot of people died, more than 500,000 already throughout the world. But we know also as spiritists that dying does not mean disappear completely. It's just the spirit which gets free from his material body. So here I show an image of we have to be resilient in willing the good, because at the beginning, as you can see in the top left image, it's not always very easy. But with resilience, you see, it contaminates, and then you have more and more people, and at the end you win. And this is how the world will change. And the first who want to change the world, they face a huge opposition from a lot of people, but at the end, they will win. Okay, so I'm coming to the end already to leave some 10 minutes or 15 minutes for the questions. Let's not be carried away by discouragement, by gloom, by pessimism. Rather, let's elevate our thoughts and voices. The transition and progress of the earth are underway. Let us stand up to denounce proactively injustices, iniquities, manipulations, blind faith who breeds fanaticism. And let's work to replace it with reasoned faith, consistent with common sense and reason. Out of charity, there is no salvation. This was the big lemma of Kardec, and which should characterize the Spiritism. So this is what I wanted to explain you in few words. So now I'm open for debating with you, or even to answer some questions if there are already some questions in the chats. Thanks a lot for your patience. Thanks a lot for your attention. Thanks a lot for your time so far.
Wow, very good, Charles. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful speech.
No, thanks.
Great.
It's trying to do the best.
So, Rodrigo?
Yeah, Charles, was wonderful, was very clarifying. Thank you very much. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, and any questions? We have a question here that I will do it. I will put for you in few minutes, Charlie.
Yes.
But first, Rodrigo, do you have any question for Charlie about the subject from today?
Absolutely no question so far. Charles was very well explained so far.
Either you did not understand anything, or you understand everything. Huh?
we got a lot of information there.
80% of the slides was this discourse, this speech of Kardec. Huh? So
yeah,
I always try to do the things, but at the end, I come back to the root, because he explains the things in such much better than I am capable to do. You know, so I'm just putting all the merit to him, because it's really he brought all these ideas, and he was not the first one, by the way, going to this autonomous approach. We are learning now by studying the philosophical context in France in the beginning of the 19th century, that there was already a rational spiritualist movement inside the philosophy, which was taught in the universities in France. And the psychology, for instance, psychology was spiritualist. They were studying the soul, and not only the mind, you know, from the matter. And this is also something very fundamental to understood. Then Kardec brought through this phenomenological approach, observation of mediumship and all this phenomenon, the proofs, because so far it was only through introspection, examining the influence of the will into the psychology and so on. It's showing also that the will cannot come from the matter, but comes from the soul. So they had already some basics, But Kardec really came at a time where the minds were prepared to accept it, and brought really this development and also the factual, phenomenological proofs for it.
Yeah, and Charlie, when you were talking about the Spiritist movement in Europe, and that you said about the philosophical aspect, and is the side of Spiritism that particular most interests me. And you see now that, as you say, when you say religion, the people don't get too much interest to talk about it. But when you show to them the other part, the philosophical part, and the scientific aspect, then you get more attracted. And then this make me think about on the future. Do you think on the future this aspect of religion you disappear, and then you'll be like more like on this way, you go most this way on, where not just in Spiritism movement, but in all religion, they will go more for this side and stop to be like this faith, irrational faith, let's say. They
Yes.
will be more rational.
So clearly, Spiritism is not only about science and philosophy, it's also about universal moral and ethics. We talked about charity. I showed a lot of things like this about the teachings. So don't think it's just because one of the problems in the Spiritist movement in France is you had some philosophers and they gained into huge detail at the end. Nobody understood anything anymore. And a lot of their books are today completely forgotten because it was, you see, it was very little people could understand it. And in the scientific way, you had all these guys investigating the phenomenon, this psychist, the SPR in UK and in Americas, and then the Institut Métapsychique International, and then later the parapsychology. These guys are on the scientific aspect, which is also only one of the face of Spiritism. So Spiritism is really the junction of the three. The only thing is you should this is why I use moral and ethical aspects or consequences of the phenomenon and of the philosophy, because when you come with a religion, I think you are going backwards again. You start from Kardec, are going 1 or 2 centuries in the back. So it's just a question of form, and in the content, it's really the step from this heteronomous to the autonomous approach. This step of these teachings, writings, revelation, and so on, to something that you are building yourself, understanding yourself why you have to practice charity. You see, it's reason, the logical thing applied to the subjects which were during centuries exclusivity of this heteronomous dogmatic approach of the traditional religions. So it will not change or whatever. I mean, to illustrate, just answering to your question, Léon Denis, he wrote, Spiritism is not the religion of the future. Spiritism is the future of the religions.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really great, and it's really comforting to hear that. Really. I have a question here from Kiran, our friend Kiran. I will show it here. It says, a question for after the talk: does the concept of worship God has a place in Spiritism?
Does the
concept of worshiping God have a place in Spiritism?
Yes, yes. But again, I mean, the word worship is a little bit strong in religion's meaning. But Spiritism admits that God gives the definition of God. It's a question number 1 of the Spirit's book. By the way, I see also another question from Daniela. Which book do you recommend to give as a present to an Irish person who doesn't want to listen about it? It's clearly the Spirit's book. Of course, it has 500 pages. This is what I would advise to everyone. So it's didactical and it's really made for a European mind. And this is what brought me personally to the Spiritism as a French, even from Alsace with a German mind. But worship, yes. So the question number 1 is giving a definition of God. So God is supreme intelligence, first cause of all things. So the notion of God is fundamental in the Spiritism. And the Spiritism explains you, again, in a rational way, why, how these things have happened, how God has created us, simple and without science, but perfectible, showing us the goal of our own evolution, coming back slowly towards good. So this worship about God, even during the initial prayer, Stephen made it, we elevate our thoughts to our Father, God. God is our Father. We are all being created by Him. So we are all brothers in humanity towards this. And this worship of God is, of course, something which is absolutely admitted in Spiritism. But again, it's not a blind worship. It's a reasoned worship, if I can say so.
That's true. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, like for me, for example, in a particular way, worship God is not going to the church or go to the temple and then, putting my knees and prayer. Is much more than this. I think worship God today is like in our action, in our example, and the things that we face every day. Like you said, like the examples that you gave on your slides, for example, kindness, charity, and love your neighbor as you love. All this law, the law of God, true. That is very hard to do sometimes, and we know how hard it is to deal with people. But yes, like for me, it's like the small things that we do, and then a small action is the most. I don't say the right way, but for me, is the most. The easy way, no, like I say, I don't find the right word to use now, but I can say that is the way to worship God the best, like by your actions.
Correct, yes, by your own behavior. It's putting in practice, it's not just theory. This is why Kardec wrote, out of charity there is no salvation. He did not wrote out of Spiritism there is no salvation. You see the difference. I mean, the religion or the belief or the faith you have doesn't matter. What is important is what you do with it. And exactly. I see here also a question from Kiron.
Yes,
he's asking us, what is your personal opinion? Do you see Spiritism as a religion? For me, clearly, it's not. I explained it. The word religion is gone. It's too heavily loaded with negative things. So Kardec brought this disruption, this new approach of these questions. And I think really this is what we have to follow. If we give a religious color to Spiritism, Spiritism will not progress. It may progress. It has progressed a lot, and in a very respectful and big amplitude in Brazil. The Spiritist movement you have there something like 6 million people. They answering, "What is your religion?" My religion is Spiritism. So it's the question is already wrong. You see, when you ask me this question, I will tell you no. My religion is not Spiritism. You see, so even with the wrong questions, you see that there are millions of people which are following. And what is the root cause of this is because you had Chico Xavier, you had all these people, all these charity and assistance, social assistance, and so on, hospitals, giving food to poor people, and so on. And this is doing, as you told, by the actions. This is giving this good image to Spiritism. And this is also what touched me when the first time I heard about Spiritism, and it was not in France, it was in Brazil. But in Europe, I think really, voila. So there is another question.
Yes, from Kirion, he's really hungry about information. So yes, you say that there is no ritual.
Yes, and yet the format of Spiritism meeting are the same in different countries. Is this not ritual? But I do not agree fully, because the format of Spiritism meeting are free. There is nothing imposed. And you may say that prayer is a ritual. Okay, elevating our things to God and the good spirits and seek for their assistance. We know they are around us and so on. You may call this a ritual. So if you call this a ritual, yes, it is. But we have no candles. There is no all these things that you see in I don't know the word in English. The smelling things and the thing also that you get the blood and the body of Christ and whatever. You will not see any of such things in Spiritism.
Yeah, and you can compare, for example, if you compare the way that we do Spiritism here in Ireland and the way that we do Spiritism in Brazil is completely different. Like that is, there's some people like to give the healing after and the other ones before. Some people has the speech for a short time, then for longer. It's like that is like you said, there is no right like format. We all the cultures in France and Spain and US, we do the Spiritism according the what we have, let's just say, the situation
Exactly.
that we adapt ourselves as the situation that we have at the moment, like we do here in Ireland.
We only have only one person, that is Kardec.
Yeah.
Kardec is the only thing that everyone follow into the spiritual century. So it's Kardec and Jesus.
Yes. So this is a point, how to say, around which we unite. Huh?
Yeah.
But even Kardec has written that Spiritism and the Spiritist teachings are not cast in concrete. If the science comes one day and demonstrates that Spiritism is wrong in something, Spiritism will immediately change, because it follows a scientific approach. So it is progressive. Huh? But on the fundamental teachings, nobody until today has demonstrated that something is wrong, So it is very stable since 150 years because Kardec was, how to say, like Jesus, he came 2,000 years ago, and now slowly but surely we are starting a little bit to understand him. It is the same of Kardec. I don't want to put Kardec at the same level of Jesus. Nevertheless, he was also some centuries ahead of the thoughts. What I try to explain today, I think, is hardly understood by the people, and it will take time to be understood by the majority. And this is how to say, which gives to the teachings this big stability. And even you see, Einstein came, then the quantum mechanics came, a lot of progress like this, and nothing of what the spirits have, what Kardec has written, has been contradicted. Or if something has been contradicted, it's very minor things, and even sometimes Kardec was using the models of the science at his time, which may have changed in the meantime.
Right, yeah.
But what the spirits have taught, for instance, the equivalence between matter and energy, that the Einstein famous formula, this was not very explicitly, but it was clearly said by the spirits that there is only one thing which is then at the root of everything. So the equivalence between energy and matter, it was implicitly already in those teachings. Just as an example, and it came 50 years later,
Yeah.
And today the science is slowly but surely also coming. I did not show it today. You have this manifesto for post-materialist science, which is signed now by several hundreds of high scientists in the world. You can find it easily on the internet. And these guys are really saying the materialist paradigm of science of today is a dogma. Nobody has never ever demonstrated that the soul is not existing. And if the science wants to progress, to have this famous disruptive approach, it must look wider, open the thoughts and the minds and the researchers, not only to the physical matter, but also to the soul, as it was started at the beginning of the 19th century, sorry, but then abandoned because of the comeback of this scientism, positivism, and so on, saying that out of science nothing exists, and this is also pretentious and will not lead a lot of progress to the science. Thank you, Kieron. If you have more questions, don't hesitate. You can ask, and Steven or Rodrigo, they will send it to me, and it will be a pleasure to answer you.
See, Tanya is here as well. She suggests No Solar as well as the first book, I think.
Yes, it's the movie is very well, is very well done, and this is what added value brought from the Brazilian literature of Chico Xavier and André Luiz, is really illustrating what is happening in the afterlife. And No Solar is really also so it may be perceived as a fiction. The first time I showed it to someone in France, he told me, it's like Avatar or whatever. But I thought, no, it's illustrating things which are very close to what is really happening.
Yeah. And I have two questions from Flavio here. I don't know if we have time to answer because it's quite specific, because he's asking about the how is the Spiritism taught to children in France, and he complements us the special groups for kids and teenagers the way that we have in Brazil. I think
there
he's
are
curious about.
yes, and it's very similar. So Léon Denis insisted a lot about this. Kardec also, as I told you at the beginning, he was a teacher, and this is exactly about it. The children, you have to stop now trying to format them in order to follow a religion or to be conditioned or to be afraid since young children about evil and so on. The children, you have to teach them exactly this law of freedom. You have to teach them these ethical laws. You have to try to explain them why it is in their interest to collaborate together, to be kind to one another, and so on. And so of course, you adapt the content, but you can very easily transmit these same principles to the children. The groups are, of course, dedicated as far as possible, because in Brazil, you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in France, of course, it's maybe from 6 to 11 and then from 12 to 18. So we don't have exactly the same way. But yes, we have a lot of books already translated in the French Spiritist Federation and the Mouvement Spirit Francophone. We have groups which are dedicated to this, how to teach Spiritism to children, how to make activities for children, and so on. And they inspire a lot from Brazil, because at the end, all this is coming then from some basic principles like Pestalozzi, like Rousseau, or whoever.
That's great. Amazing. So, guys, we already passed the time today. It's so nice to talk to you, Charlie, that if you could, we can stay here for hours. So we have
it
so
would be a
much
pleasure. Don't hesitate. I'm here. So
no, don't worry.
don't
Probably
have to
you'll be
drive
back.
back or to fly back.
You'll be back for our live soon.
Excellent. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Nady. Thanks a lot, Diego. Thanks a lot also to Stephen. I know he had to left. I will maybe jump a little bit in the parallel speech he's participating to. And really, I thank a lot for this opportunity and to all who participated to this and who will still watch the videos later on.
Yeah, thank you. We have our friends. Sorry, Rodrigo.
It's always a pleasure to have Charles here, because he always brings something new to us, but in a different point of view, because sometimes we just forgot about Kardec, and then it's good to have someone that remind us about the teachings. Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Kardec.
Thanks to Kardec.
So thank you. I want to say thank you to Daniela, Don, Altino, Manjets that was here with us, Kiran, Flavio, Daniela, Jersey, Camila, all the guys, Tanya, that was here with us and participates. Thank you very much to be with us. The guys are always here with us and always take part and ask questions, everything. So guys, Rodrigo, you want to do the final prayer, or Charlie, would you like to do the final prayer for us as well?
I could, yes, even if the English is maybe not the easiest language for me to do the prayer, but let's try.
Thank you very much.
So let's elevate our thoughts again to God, our fathers, and to all these elevated spirits which are doing the will of God and which are always here to help us. It is only up to each of us to elevate our thoughts so that we can come into sympathy with them and then perceive better their inspiration, their counsels, their help, their advices, because this is what is really helping us in our lives. This is what will help us in overcoming the natural difficulties of life. This will helping us in understanding, studying better, get more aware about how this universe, the nature of the physical and also of the spiritual world is wonderful. how we can better stay in harmony with it, help onto others, give the example, teach, lead by example. Thanks. And with this, in this symphony, they are multiplying by 10 our strengths. Thanks also to all the organizers of this event for this opportunity to bring some of these teachings from Spiritism, from Kardec, and from even Jesus over to you. And I hope that this will help you in your life, help you to think about, help you to understand better the things, help you to better overcome your difficulties. To the people also, the spirits who were with us in our homes, respective homes, they can also benefit from these teachings and become better aware and integrate better in the spiritual world where they have returned. Thanks a lot for all, and may God bless you and Jesus stay with us. So be it.
Thank you very much, Charlie, once more time. Thank you, Kardec Radio. Thank you, guys from US, France, Brazil, in Ireland. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. And guys, see you again next Sunday, 11:15 for our normal speech, and Tuesday again, 7:15. God be with you. Bless you. Bye-bye, guys.
All the best. Bye-bye.